Hey, it's Scott. And in this week's Give Me Five, we're coming to you live from an undisclosed Army base. And just as a quick disclaimer that for anybody who's been in any sort of a presentation that's been done by our colleagues in the military, this discussion is simply our discussion. It is just an informal chat between medical colleagues, and it does not reflect the opinions of the Department of Defense, etc., and all the typical disclaimers that you normally see. So with that, I'm joined this afternoon by Second Lieutenant Kyle Haas. And with that, what we're going to go ahead and quickly touch on is when you've got the mother of all sucking chest wounds. Quick reminder, number one, you have to strip them and flip them. Because when a trauma hits the door, if you don't strip them and flip them, you've only done half your exam. And in any sort of trauma alphabet soup class, they're going to fail you because you missed something that looks like a big old sucking chest wound. But when you've got that, understandably, you're going to cover it up. And that really is the focus of our conversation, is the whole idea of covering it up. Now, why that comes into play is we've had the pleasure of teaching with the military for several years. And a little while back, we had several soldiers who had just returned from being deployed overseas in the sandbox. And we were talking about this whole idea of the fancy chest seals. And the chest seals, if you played with them, look at first glance like a defibrillator pad, but it has a built-in one-way valve that allows the air to go out but not come back in. And it was kind of cool because we got their opinions. They're like, yeah, you know what, we tried this one, it was all right. We tried this one, was better. They're like, you know what, here's the best one we came across. Now, admittedly, being geeky, I then went on and started to search everywhere I could to find other variations, and interestingly, we found there was not 3, there was not 4, there was not 10. Currently, there is 25 different variations of chest seals out there. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's 25, that's more than enough, until I met Kyle. Whereas I learned that indeed there's actually 3 more that I never would have thought of that came to us, compliments of real life in the military. So Kyle, option number 1, if you would.
So just as a disclaimer for myself, these are things that have been reported to me. I was never sent over. But initially, any soldier out in the field, whether it's here or downrange, always has snacks with them, have to have snacks. So anytime you have a particularly large wound on the chest, bleeding air where it should not, an option, if you are not able to get to your packaging for whatever reason, an option is the Ziploc bag holding your snacks. Done like any other pack, plug the hole, end of breath, plug it, where you can then again tape on 3 sides or 4 depending on the necessity on the front, back, or both sides. Alternatively, if that is not readily accessible, or if this one's been particularly used and a little crummy, we have our large brown MREs, or meal ready to eat bags, which are particularly durable, similar to a extra heavy duty trash bag, but a little bit thicker, which is, like I said, a little bit more durable. So if this becomes a little too flimsy, that's another, not best option, but an option.
So you're taking your MREs, otherwise known as your meals ready to eat, otherwise known as the most scrumptious meals you've probably ever had in your entire military experience, and you're literally just ripping open the package?
So the package does not contain the food itself. It contains a bunch of bags of other food. So it itself is not in contact with any food products, which is a good thing, unlike the Ziploc bag, which is dirty on the outside and then food on the inside. You rip it open, the outside's contaminated, but the inside is quite clean. Obviously not sterile, so no, it's not ideal, but clean enough.
Neither is having a hole in your chest.
Correct. So that's a nice, clean, and dry surface that you can use to properly cover that hole, and like I said, tape down. Alternatively, oftentimes, if you have one hole, you're liable to have more than one hole. So you're at the risk of hemorrhaging. In those instances, we're obviously going to provide fluids, and with every bag of fluid, that is in another durable, clean, ideally, but if it's not clean, the inside is clean, that you can use in the same way just as the MRE. If whichever one's closest, and at the end of the day, whatever works, whatever gets the job done and gets them back in the fight at some point.
Cool. And that's what I've heard too. It's like ideally if you've got these fancy chest seals, great, feel free to use them. If you've got a Ziploc bag, great, feel free to use it. You've got an MRE, feel free to use it. You got an AV bag, feel free to use it. You want to tape it, great. If they look crummy, just cover it up. If they look really crummy, open it up, let the air out, and then put it back on.
And like I said, ideally you have one of those fancy Vaseline gauze, especially on a through and through wound where one side would be completely plugged. Ideally you would want that nice Vaseline gauze to keep that. But of course, downrange is never ideal, especially when you have someone with a hole in their chest.
Sure.
So you make do somehow.
Absolutely. So I think to kind of put this together, just simply number one, again, disclaimer, this is not representation of the Department of Defense, etc., or whatever unacknowledged medical center that we happen to be at currently. Number two, this is again just a simple discussion between Second Lieutenant Haas and myself. And to put this all together simply in the words of Shrek, remember that it's better to be out than in. And when it comes to somebody who's got a big old sucking chest wound, exactly the same idea applies here. Thank you so much, my friend. I truly appreciate it.